Hello, and welcome back to Vector's All Things PC-lint Plus YouTube series. Once again, my name is Jake Colapietro. I'm a field application engineer here at Vector. This is the fifth and final part of the series where we'll be covering how you can integrate your PC-lint Plus setup with PC-lint Plus View, which is a new feature as PC-lint Plus 2025. In the previous video, we discussed how you can integrate your PC-lint Plus setup into different IDEs, so please check out that video if you'd like to know more about that topic. And one more thing to note is that this final part is going to be split into two different videos. This first video, we're going to go over how you can actually integrate with PC-lint Plus View, so go over the setup and everything. And then in the second video, we're going to walk through the View dashboard and show you what you can expect to see on your end once everything's integrated. So thank you, and let's get started. So before we actually jump into integrating with PC-lint Plus View, I want to discuss what it actually is and why I think you should be using it. So I wanted to give a little bit more context to start off. Based on what we've seen so far in the series, PC-lint provides you with plenty of options to really customize your code analysis virtually any way you want. You can generate metrics reports, check your code versus a multitude of coding standards, and even output the findings in any format that you see fit. However, what we've also seen is that traditional PC-lint Plus setups lack a real way to visualize all the analysis metrics and coding standards that it outputs. How would you know what your current overall standard compliance is? How can you generate reports for these coding standards and findings? How can you see findings, trends, and breakdowns of that data? And the real question is, how do you get everything under one roof and display all of the data that PC-lint Plus outputs? Well, the short answer is this is really difficult to do with a traditional PC-lint Plus setup. Maybe we have a few tools that we can employ to get something up and running, but what we really found was that we needed something new. So this is where PC-lint Plus View comes in. PC-lint Plus View is a new feature as of PC-lint's 2025 releases. In simple terms, it's a GUI that allows you to display PC-lint findings and visualize data from your analysis, as you can see in the example image below. So here the findings are much more navigable, and it's very easy to see where your code currently stands. And now this is my opinion, but I really think if you have access to View, you should be using it. View is a very powerful tool, and it's really easy to set up. So in order to have access to it, all you need is a PC-lint Plus 2025 install and license. So then View is included at no additional cost to you if you have a 2025 license. So a bit more of the why. So View allows for much better data visualization. So those previous questions that I asked are all answered by PC-lint Plus View. So here you can visualize your data, display your standard compliance and metrics reports, and you can also very easily generate reports for your overall standard compliance. So you can see in the image below, View can display a lot of different information to you depending on what you want to see. So here we can see our overall standards compliance, and yes, it needs a bit of improvement. We can also see this finding trends graph, which also needs improvement. You normally want to see it going down this way and not up. We can also see the density of our PC-lint findings by file and also a findings breakdown by file. So this is not all either. This is just the tip of the iceberg, really. There's a plethora of information that View can provide to you. So one of the best things I think is that View can even do a review of all your findings, where it'll show you the line and also the standard or PC-lint Plus rule that was violated and give you a breakdown of why and an explanation of it. So as I said earlier, View is a very powerful and useful tool, and it can really easily fit into your currently existing setup. So as I mentioned earlier, today in this video, we're going to go over how to integrate PC-lint Plus View. And then in the next video of this part, we're going to walk through the View dashboard so I can show you everything that View has to offer. So let's get started on that. All right, so moving on to actually integrating with PC-lint Plus View. As with this entire series so far, I'm going to be showing this integration on Windows. The process is similar for Linux. However, Linux does have slightly different prerequisites. So I just recommend checking those out if you have a Linux setup within the PC-lint Plus View documentation. You can navigate to Vector's website and get to there from here. I have it pulled up here in the background. Or you can just go to where you have PC-lint View downloaded, and you can see this readme.html. If you just double click on that, it'll lead you to the View documentation. So there are a few things that are required in order to get View up and running on Windows. The first, as I mentioned previously, is a PC-lint Plus 2025 download and license. If you have those two things, you have access to PC-lint Plus View. Once you have PC-lint 2025 downloaded along with View, there is a one-time prerequisite that you need for a Windows setup, and that is a Java runtime installation, and it needs to be either version 11 or 17. That is also listed in this prerequisites, so don't feel like you need to remember that right now. But I'm not going to be showing me downloading Java in this video. I feel like that's not necessary. But if you haven't downloaded Java on your server or your machine, I recommend pausing here and downloading Java. All right, so we have Java installed, and then we also have our PC-lint Plus 2025 downloaded, as well as a license. So the next thing to do is to run the View startup script, or actually install PC-lint Plus View. So this process is likely going to be done on a server on your end, because the end result of this is to actually start the View server and database. So I'm just going to open my File Explorer here and go up one directory. And you can see here I have a fresh PC-lint Plus 2025 install. So with the 2025 installs, there should be two directories that come with the download. PCLP, which is our regular PC-lint install that we've been using throughout the series. Regular PC-lint is stored there. And then we have PCLP View. And as the name suggests, this is where View is located. So if we just navigate into this View directory, you notice there's multiple directories here. But there's only one of these that's important for us to start this install process. And that's this bin directory. So within this bin directory, once again, you can see there's a bunch of batch scripts. And these are used to control different aspects of PC-lint Plus View, but there's only one of these that's important for us to start this install process. And that is this start.bat script. So this is the important one to start the install. The main function of this script is to start the View server and database, as I mentioned earlier. However, on the first instance of this script running, it's going to go through an install step. And within this install step, the server and the database are going to be configured, and then those configurations are going to be saved for the subsequent startups that you do. All right, so I'm just going to go back to this main installation directory. So in order to start the install process, all we really need to do is just run that batch script. So you can just call the script and it'll run with some default settings. But one thing you can also do is provide it with a directory. So if you provide it with a directory, this is where all of the server data is going to be housed. So I'm going to create a directory here. And I'm just going to name it PCLP data. All right, and then I'm going to open a command prompt here. And then I'm going to run our start.bat script. And once again, this is just going to install View. It's going to create some configurations and save those. Some of those will be in our PCLP data directory. So what does that look like? I'm just going to do a ./PCLP View /bin/start.bat. And then, as I mentioned, I'm going to pass it our PCLP data directory. All right, so this is all we need to do, and View is going to install. So if I hit enter, you'll see that this blue box pops up. So if this pops up, you know you did it correctly. So this is going to begin the View installation. And this is going to take a few minutes, so I'm going to let this run, but this is what you should expect to see. This is View installing. So as I mentioned, it's going to take a few minutes, so I'm just going to let this go, and once it's finished, I'll be back to show you what you can expect to see once your install is finished. All right, so the installation is finished up. I also just wanted to mention that the steps we followed to install PC-lint Plus View can be found within the View documentation under the Installing PC-lint Plus View section that I have open here. All right, so this is what you can expect to see in your command prompt once the installation is completed. So you can see the installation went through. And it was successful, and it tells us where the server is available at, which would be this localhost 8280. And yeah, so our View installation was successful. So with that, our view server would be up and running. But you can see below here that I actually ran another batch script from that bin directory called stop.bat. So the purpose of this script is to stop all of the view server processes from running, thus shutting down the view server and database. So to start the server again, all we would need to do is run that start.bat script again. So I'll just do PCLP view bin start.bat. So since the installation process has already run, all of the configurations that occurred during that installation process have already been saved. So we don't need to pass it our PCLP data directory again. So it's just going to take those configurations and start the server once again. So I'm going to start running the script. So you can see it's starting those processes that it just killed with the stop.bat script. So this is once again going to take a minute or two to get started. So I just started it and I'll be back in a moment. All right, so the start.bat script has once again finished, and we can now move on to actually accessing PC-lint Plus View for the first time. You can see that the start.bat script, all it did was restart the processes that were stopped when the stop.bat script ran. So yeah, as I said, server and database are now back up and running, and we can access View. So there's two ways we could do that. We can either go into our browser and access this localhost 8280, or we can go into our PCLP view directory and double click on this web client.html. So I'm going to do that. And yeah, now PC-lint Plus View is up and running and we have accessed it. So the first thing you're going to see here is that View is going to ask you to register a license file. So all that is just your PC-lint Plus license. So you just need a 2025 license, and then all you need to do is select this Choose File button and navigate to where your license is located and select that. All right, so I've navigated to where my license file is, and all I need to do now is select Open and then Deploy. And this will bring me to a login screen. So I'm just going to log into my account. Your IT or whoever the administration is will likely give you account credentials to log into yours. So just going to log in here. And we've now fully accessed PC-lint Plus View for the first time and can see the dashboard. Now, there isn't too much significant to see here currently because we haven't pushed any results to the server. However, we're now fully prepared to do so as we're now fully set up. And even here, we can now see that we're able to create a first project. So there are two things that you need to do in order to be able to push results from a client PC to the server. So the first thing you need to do is download the PC-lint Plus View agent. And this can be downloaded by selecting this question mark drop down here and going to PC-lint Plus View agent. And you'll see here you're able to download the PC-lint Plus View agent.jar here. So just download that. And once downloaded, you can move it wherever you like. I like to keep mine under my PC-lint View download, as you can see here. So the other thing we need is a token. And this can be easily made by going to your account dropdown and going to account settings. And then we can navigate to the tokens tab. You can see I've already made one. But all you need to do is give it a name. So I'll just do new token. And you just select add. And then this will display the token. This token will only be displayed one time. So be sure to copy your token and save it on your machine somewhere safe in case you need it in the future. So now that we've downloaded the PC-lint Plus View agent and we've generated a token, we are now ready to push results from our project to the server. All right, so as mentioned, we are now able to push results to our View server by utilizing the PC-lint Plus View agent that we just downloaded. So there are just two more steps that we need to carry out in order to be able to push results to our View server. So I've once again navigated to the View agent page where we can see an example of the two things that we need to do here. So for these two things, I'm going to be doing the work in the original PC-lint Plus script that I've been working on throughout this series within VS Code. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I have this script here, and I've been working on it all throughout this series. So every other video, pretty much, I've been doing something within this script. So if you don't know what's going on here and want more context for the things that are happening within this script, go check out the previous videos in this series. We cover things like creating a compiler configuration, creating a project configuration, and even just like some additional PC-lint options. So go check that out if you want more context. And the reason I bring that up is just because I'm going to be doing the work to push the results to the View server within this script. So I didn't want any confusion as to why I have this random script here. All right, so what are the two things that we need to do? Well, it's very easy to actually push results to the server once we have the setup completely done. So the first thing we need to do is generate these JSON files with our PC-lint Plus setup. So how do we do that? Well, within your setup, you likely have something like the following. Calling PC-lint, calling a compiler configuration, any additional options you may have like metrics reports or anything, and then a project configuration and or source files. So that's probably your normal PC-lint Plus call that you have within your setup or something similar. So the only thing we need to do here, only additional thing, is add this dash server data option and then provide it with a folder. So this is just going to tell PC-lint to generate JSON data with all of its analysis and push it to the directory that we provide it with here. So going to my script, I'm just going to add this option here. So I have it copied from previously. So you can see, calling PC-lint, I have my compiler configuration, added dash server data, and gave it a directory. I have an options file, and my project configuration. And as I said, this dash server data option, it's just going to push the JSON results to this directory here. All right, great. So we're generating our JSON data. So the last thing we need to do is to actually push the results to our server. And how do we do that? Well, we do that by utilizing the PC-lint Plus View agent that we've been talking about throughout this video. So there's an example of the command that we need to execute the View agent. So we have it downloaded, and then all we need to do is call java-jar, then call the PC-lint View agent, then -t, then we provide it with our token. So the token that we generated before, I told you to save it in case you need in the future. This is that future. All right, so put the token in here. The host name of your View server. Then we have --name, just your project name. So if you have already existing projects, just put the name here, or if you're creating a new one, just create a name for your project. Then we have this --dp. And the important part of this is the PCLP dir and then the JSON directory. And this is the directory where our JSON files are being generated for our PC-lint Plus setup. Then lastly, we have this ---- repository option. And the only real important part of this is the path. And this is just like a parent directory for all your source code. So just provide one of those parent directories. So maybe go up a directory or two and provide that. And so with this filled out, you just add this to your script or however you're doing your PC-lint Plus analysis and put it after the JSON files being created here. And then all this is going to do is take that JSON data and then send it to the server. All right, so I've already added this to my script. So again, java-jar, calling the View agent, -t, have my token, host name of my server, the name of my project, path to my JSON files, and the path to my code. Okay, so we've added the -server data option to generate our JSON data. We've added our View agent execution to actually send the JSON data to the server. So all I need to do now is run this script, and it'll take all of that JSON data. Well, first it'll generate that JSON data, take it, and send it to the server. So I'm just going to run this script. All right, so this is going to take a moment. So I'm just going to let this run and push the results to the server, and then I'll be back to show you what you can expect to see once it's finished. All right, so our analysis is run, and we've sent all of that data to the server. Well, what can you expect to see on your end to know that everything's run correctly? Well, for starters, if I check the directory that I designated for the JSON output with the -server data option, there should be JSON files there. So the -server data option, I just need to check this directory. And I have that open right here, and you can see I have all the JSON files I need. There's an artifacts, files, metadata, metrics, so on and so forth. So great. then that means our PC-lint Plus analysis ran and generated all the JSON files that the server needs. So as for the view agent, if I scroll down in this terminal window here, you can see that the agent was running. And then if I go all the way to the bottom, I can see this exit code 0. If I see this exit code 0, that means everything ran successfully. The agent found the JSON files and then sent that data to the server. Now, there's one other indication that we could check. If we actually go to the view server, and then we go to the projects tab, you should expect to see a new project here. Either a new project, or if you already have a project, you should have a last task time that's similar to when you were running it, and your last task status should be successful. All right, so there's one other thing I'd like to mention. So the method that I showed here for creating a project by using the PC-lint Plus agent from a command line perspective isn't the only way to create a project. So you can actually go into this create project view. And using this, you can create a project within the GUI if you want to only use the GUI. I'd recommend checking this out if you're interested. This method's a little bit more intuitive than running everything from the command line. So I just recommend checking this out if you're interested. One other thing I'd like to mention before we wrap up is that I'd really recommend checking out the documentation for PC-lint Plus View. So as I mentioned earlier, you can go to the View directory wherever you have that downloaded, and you can go to the readme.html, and that'll bring you to the documentation. There is a bunch of great information, and everything that I showed it was how to set up and everything, but there's a lot more information about some of the nitty-gritty details in there, if you're interested in doing some other things. So I definitely recommend checking that out before you really dive into it, because I think there's a lot of helpful information in there. All right, so today we covered a little bit of the what and the why for PC-lint Plus View, which is Vector's new PC-lint feature as of PC-lint 2025. We also went through the process of downloading and installing View. We also went over how to set up the View server. And finally, how to generate the server data in your PC-lint Plus setup, and also send that data to your View server. Please be sure to tune into the next video, which will also cover PC-lint Plus View. There we'll take a deep dive and show you everything that the View GUI actually has to offer. I want to thank you once again for watching, and take care.